Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome. It's Wednesday night. It's time to go a bit live. Time to answer some questions. How's it, James? Good evening, Sinarius. Hello, Charlene. What? Swartz, Tabang, Cover Leaves, Ubuntu. Welcome, everybody. Please do put in a question on financial advice if you have, or anything financially related, and let's see if I can help you. J10 Chapiso, J10 again. Good evening, folks. Good evening. Welcome to my normal Wednesday night live. And I don't know about there by you guys, but it has been absolutely freezing here by us. Very, very cold. And I suppose this would be the coldest that we've had this year. Let me just swing that laptop around. Maybe I can check one or two things. If somebody asks for something, then I can answer a question in between. It's always helpful to have the laptop ready. How to stop gambling? Jay, now that is an interesting question. I must say, I've never had a problem in my life with gambling, thank God for small mercies. But I've battled to stop things such as vaping and smoking. And for me, it was a question of, it had to come to a point where I was just, enough was enough. And I put it down and I never touched it again. But I think to stop gambling, oh man, I think there's so many things. I think you could go and see a psychologist. I think you can go for hypnosis. I think you can read some books. I think there is a number of things that you can do to stop gambling. But the most important thing, Jay, is you must want to. If you don't want to, never going to happen. Doesn't matter what you do. You must have this absolute need and want to stop it. Then it will happen. Nailene, hope you're warm. Thanks, Nailene. I am. As you can see, I've got my jacket on. I've got a tracksuit on tonight. So I'm very casually dressed. And yes, I am indeed warm. Although, I wouldn't have minded if there was a fireplace next to me. That would be nice. That would be very nice. And let's see. Let's see. Whoa! Suddenly there's. Oh, there we go. Okay. Nadine says, "Why stop? I enjoy gambling. It must be money you can afford to lose." Yeah, I suppose you're right, Nadine. I think the problem for most people, it's like with cigarettes and drugs and alcohol, is it's people can't stop it. Even though they know it's bad for them and it's not what they can afford. Antsman, Cape Town is warm. Good, Antsman. I'm glad it is. Antsman, I'm trying to see now. Yes, the picture is so small. I wonder if it's you, Mr. Antbeer. In any case. Charlene, what is the minimum required to put assets in a trust and the costs involved? Charlene, actually there's no minimum when you want to start putting assets in a trust. 100 Rand, that's as easy as that. The cost of the trust is going to depend on who you make use of and how complicated your trust is. A trust doesn't have to be very complicated, really. It shouldn't be very complicated, especially if you use a trust for what your needs are. And the lawyers that I make use of, they charge a minimum fee of 7,500 Rand to start a trust. But I know of companies that charge substantially more. If obviously the trust is more complicated, yes, then it becomes more expensive. The most important or the most expensive thing about a trust is most probably when you start transferring assets out of your personal capacity into the trust. Because then you can't just put it in there, then it's a donation, there's donation tax, you have to sell it. Property, you have to do a transfer of the property, so you have to pay property fees. So When it comes to trust, people must just make sure that they plan around their trust. Trust are wonderful things for leaving behind a legacy and making provision and protecting assets. But like with anything else, it needs a bit of planning. The new fight of life. I will have to go and Google the new fight of life to understand it. The new fight of life says, ek wil maximum trek uit 300,000 om my car payment te kan dek, is het moeilik. You want to draw 300,000 rand to cover your car payment, and is it possible? I don't know. It depends on what type of investment you have. If you have a unit trust or LISP investment and you've got 300,000, yes, you can draw it. If you've got an endowment policy, yes, you can draw it. If you've got an investment with the bank, yes, you can draw it. If you've got a savings account, yes, you can draw it. If you've got a retirement annuity, no, you can't draw it. Because if it's a retirement annuity, you can only take the money when you go into retirement, and then you can draw 1/3 in cash and 2/3 as a monthly income. And if you've got more than 300,000, then it will work. Same with pension funds and provident funds. While you're still working, you can't draw from it. It's only when you go into retirement, or if you resign and you then draw the money, although that's not a good idea, because if you resign and you draw the money, you pay lots of taxes. It's better to move the money to a preservation fund. So there's a number of different investments that you can indeed draw 300,000 from and to pay your car. So it is possible. It's just going to depend, neophyte, it's just going to depend on the type of investment that you have, that you want to draw from, whether it will be possible or not. Okay. And then, of course, it is important to go and check, because remember, if you have an endowment and you make a withdrawal within the first 5 years, you only get your investment amount plus 5%, less cost. You don't get the actual fund value, because that's what legislation says within the first 5 years. So you just have to check in terms of what the investment is, when you withdraw, what the implication will be, okay? But it is possible. It's definitely possible, depending on, like I say, investment and how much there is. And tonight I've got one of those screens that keeps on jumping around again like mad. I'm never sure where I am. Okay, let's see. Dow joined. Barney joined. In Jay is here with us. Mandy is with us. Sukulu, Melody, David. Good evening, folks. Crab joined us. See, comments in this live were filtered to protect the community's experience. So where do I see those comments that has been filtered? Oh, last week we had somebody that were talking just a lot of nonsense. I had absolutely no idea what they were saying. So I hope that's not the same person that's back. Okay, I'm trying to figure out to see if there's anything else, but I can't see anything. There's Neophyte again. Ek het nou 300,000 savings in my bank en ek wil graag van die rentewinste karretjie afbetaal. Yes, absolutely. If you've got 300,000 rand savings in the bank, it's most probably a very good idea to do that, for the plain and simple reason the interest that you're earning in the bank is most probably anything between, I would say, 4 and 8.5% if you're lucky, where the inflation rate is 6.5%. So you're not making a lot of money with the interest that's in there. The vehicle, if it is on lease agreement or hire purchase, you most probably be paying anything from about 11 to 14%. So you're paying more in interest than what you're earning in the bank, and therefore it absolutely makes sense to do something like that. Just make sure that you don't use everything, because it's always important to have your nest egg, your emergency fund for crises, okay? But yes, it is absolutely possible. And I see you go further to say here, you can draw that without touching the 300K. Then it's even better, mate. Then it is even better, because 300,000 is that magical little figure whereby the amount of interest you earn is just below or just above 23,500 when the rebates kicks in. So yeah, if you can draw without touching that, absolutely first prize. I'll do it. I'll do it if it was me. Nalene, is it advisable to collect the pension income over 5 years, then later invest elsewhere? Nalene, so what you basically, if I understand you right, you say, is it advisable to collect the pension income over 5 years, then later invest elsewhere? So, Nalene, I suppose what you're referring to here is taking a living annuity with a maximum income of 17.5%. Because if you take 17.5%, it's very possible that you're going to draw down all that capital. I don't think you will draw down in 5 years, but you will most probably draw down in closer to 7 to 11 years, depending on the growth that you get. And is it better to do that? No, I don't think it's better to do that, Nalene, for the plain and simple reason. If you do take 17.5%, irrespective of what the capital amount is, you pay tax on that income. So because you're taking such a big income, you are going to be taxed on a higher income bracket. That's number one. Number two, you are exhausting your capital, and you are most probably not going to be able to, whatever that is, you're most probably not going to be able to get the growth that you need. So I would say it's better to put it into a portfolio where you're going to get a very good growth or decent growth. You draw an income that you need, which is smaller, and therefore your tax is smaller, and you live on it like that. Because remember, in a living annuity, you are not bound in terms of legislation, in terms of Regulation 28, whereby you can only have certain portfolios. You can make use of any portfolio. So when you're in a living annuity, you can use the same portfolios that you're going to use in endowments, in unit trusts, in any of those. And therefore, you can take a more aggressive portfolio, draw a smaller income, pay less tax, and still have the same growth that you would have had in a different investment. So, no, I will not do that if I were you. Because also, if you draw down that 17.5% and you now invest that income into a different investment to replenish your capital, you have no guarantee that you're going to be able to replenish that capital because you've paid more tax in order to get the full income. So, Nalene, I hope I'm answering your question, but yeah, the answer is no, I don't think it is a good idea. Okay, let's see who's next in line here. Whoopie. Maar sal jy vir my iets kan doen met daardie 300 so maandeliks so 4000 kan trek? Woo! Here we go again. The sums, my mate, the sums. Let's see how much it is. I've had a long day of doing sums. My brain doesn't want to do any more sums. 48,000 Rand per annum. That's basically what you're talking about here. 1, 2, 3 divided by 300. 1, 2, 3 equals that, my good sir. What you're asking for here in terms of 300,000 Rand investment to get a 4,000 Rand a month income. It's possible because you are talking about a 16% income that you want to draw. Okay. So if we want to protect the capital, number one, it means that we have to get a 17% or higher growth rate in order to give you a 16% income. So there are portfolios that has been doing that pretty consistently for 10 to 25 years. So yes, it can be done, but the guarantee that the portfolio will keep on performing like that is not there. So I can tell you based on historical data that yes, one can do such an income. Yes, you can draw 4,000 Rand a month. And if it goes forward and it keeps on that growth, then yes, your capital will sustain and you will keep on getting the 4,000 Rand. It's only in the event that those portfolios do not perform at the rate they have been performing that your capital will start reducing, and at some point one won't be able to make the 4,000 anymore. So that's the one side. The other side is you can take up alternative investments, and there's a number of alternative investments which has growth rates of between 20 and 25%, arbitrage which shows growth rates of up to 30 or 40%. Okay, it's all before tax. So once the tax comes off, we're back to about 18 or 19% return on investment. But it's got a different risk implication. You have to understand the risk implication. But yes, that is an alternative option. One can make use of those type of investment to give you your 4,000 Rand a month income, as long, again, as you understand what the risk is and you're willing to take that risk. Then yes, Neophyte, I could actually give you an income plan that will give you what you want. But we will have to sit and discuss it. I have to make sure that you understand what the risks is and the possibilities, etc., etc. Not just going to give it to you. You're going to have to sign a document to say you understand. Mondley Dube says, I heard of something called the deposit insurance. Not sure if it's named by the Reserve Bank. Called the deposit insurance. Mondley, I don't know what deposit insurance is. I will have to go and check that. Let's see if I can type in something while I'm talking to you. Where's that thingy? Deposit insurance by Reserve Bank. Let's just see if something pops up here. Well, seems like there is something like that, Mondley. What it is, I don't know. I will have to go and read through it because I just pick it up here. But I can't go into... Yeah. It is a Reserve Bank product. Okay, so Monday, I'll have to go and read up on that, mate. I see that thing is available. You've heard of something that I haven't heard from before, but I can't answer you because I haven't checked it out. Okay, but I will go, I'll have a look on it. Yes, Neophyte, like I said, that 4,000 Rand we can do without touching the capital, but you're gonna have to understand that you're gonna have to take up a higher risk portfolio or a higher risk investment. And then there is no guarantee on the capital. For all intents and purposes, if these investments keeps on performing the way that they have been performing historically, then you will not touch the capital. But if they do not, and there is a drop in the market, or there is a crisis or something, then it will dip into the capital. So there is no guarantee at the end of the day that it won't be touched. Like I say, from a theoretical point of view, it should not be touched based on historical figures, but it's not guaranteed going into the future. Okay. Monday, like I said, I don't know, mate. I'm going to have to research that before I'm going to be able to tell you. Honestly, it's the first time I've heard of it, and I've never checked it. Hey? Sorry, man. Oh, thanks, Nailene. It is my pleasure. When you say thank you, good info, at least it sounds like I've given you the answer that you were looking for, or answered the right question. So great stuff. Thank you, Nailene. Sander Singh, just checking. I'm going to retire at the age of 61 and I am in GPF. Will I get a full lump sum? Yes, Sander Singh. With regards to GPF members, it doesn't matter when you retire, whether you take early retirement, normal retirement, doesn't matter. You always get the full lump sum that you are entitled to at that age based on the formula. Remember, GPF does not work on a fund value, so they don't tell you, listen, your fund value is 10 million Rand and therefore you get 333,000 Rand as a lump sum. They work out a formula, and based on this formula, which includes your salary, the number of years that you worked with the GPF, the rank that you held, etc., that formula determines what your value is of your pension fund. So if the value is 6 million Rand, they're going to tell you, you can have this 2 million Rand, the other 4 million Rand is going to buy you an income, all based on a formula, and that's it. You can have a little bit smaller, 1/3, but it's very small, that difference. If you should choose that your income does not reduce at your death, but keeps up. So instead of the income reducing to 50% for your wife, that it only goes to 75%, you can choose that option, and then they reduce that capital lump sum just a little bit. But for all intents and purposes, irrespective of when you retire from the GPF, you will always be entitled to your full lump sum as per the formula. Okay. Serge, Corne, endowment versus unit trust. What's the difference between the two? Okay, search. So in a unit trust, you can only choose unit trust funds. That means you can only choose funds that's made up of a bunch of shares. Okay. In a portfolio, you can choose a unit trust funds, or you can choose portfolios that's made up of unit trust, cash, property, and bonds. Okay. So that's the first difference between the two, is the choice that you have in investment portfolios. Note here that I say you can choose unit trust in both. So about 90%, I would say, of portfolios, 80% of portfolios overlap and can be used in both these investments. Then the difference is an endowment has to be invested for a minimum of 5 years. And that is based on legislation. While a unit trust is basically like a bank account. You can put the money in today and you can draw the money tomorrow. You do have access to your endowment in the first 5 years, but it's limited access. Okay, so that's number two with regards to it. The biggest difference, however, is the tax of the investments. So the endowment is taxed in the fund. That means any growth that happens within that endowment is taxed. CGT, capital gains tax, is taken at 30% inside of the investment. Okay. So that when you withdraw your money eventually, it's after tax money. People always talk about it's tax free because the tax has already been sorted out. With the unit trust, the day that you withdraw the money, at that day, they tell you, okay, this is the amount of capital you put in, and this is the amount of growth that you gotten, and they give you everything, but now you have the capital gain is being calculated based on your personal tax rate. And then you are taxed and you have to pay SARS out of your own pocket. So that's a big difference. The reason why it's a big difference is that people that have a tax rate of 30% or lower, for them, it is normally better to have a unit trust. But for people with 30% or more, it's better to have an endowment, purely from the tax that is calculated on the CGT, on the capital gain. The other thing is with regards to the unit trust is sometimes people take it out because they're in a 26% tax bracket, but then their income increases and this, that, the other, and their capital grows, and eventually they're in a 46% tax bracket, and now they're actually a bit screwed because now when they're going to withdraw that money, they're going to pay a 46% tax bracket instead of a 26% tax bracket when they started with it. So that's the major difference. That's the biggest of them. So it's the tax implications. It is the period where there's a limitation on. And then one last thing is an endowment. You can nominate beneficiaries. Okay. And that means that the money in your endowment, if you pass away, doesn't have to go to your estate. It can go straight to your beneficiaries. Where unit trust, you cannot nominate beneficiaries. It has to go to your estate, and therefore it does attract executors fees. So those are the four basic differences. There are more, but those are the most important ones. Okay, I hope I answered it for you, Serge. Dankie vir die raad, Corrijn. New fight beteken student. Mooi aand neer, ek sal bietjie kom kuier. Fantasties. Maak jy nou so pas van my 'n student hierso. The new fight of life, the student of life, therefore. Brilliant, sir, brilliant. Well, I've learned something new tonight. Like they say, you can always learn something new. Dave van der Merwe. Dave van der Merwe sent love you so much ×1. The first gift Dave ever sent, express your appreciation. Listen, Dave, thank you very much for sending the love. What it means and I'm going to collect it, I don't know, but thanks, man. Koki Lisha, here we go. My husband just retired, so it's good to take full lump sum. I must take it. Okay, hold on a second. Koki says, my husband just retired, so is it good to take the full lump sum, and how much tax is it going to be? So, Koki, it's a bit difficult to tell you how much the tax is going to be because I don't know how much your husband's lump sum is, okay? As you know, I'm sure by now, the first 550,000 is tax-free. So, if your husband's full pension value is 1,650,000 rand, then the 1/3 is going to be 550,000. That will be tax free. Anything more than 1.65 million as a total pension fund, the 1/3 will increase, and then there will be certain taxes on certain sliding scales. So I need to know what the 1/3 amount is before I can calculate the actual tax for you. That's the first thing. Is it good to take the full lump sum? I'm going to give you a yes or no answer. Yes, it is good, because normally the tax on the full lump sum, if you go and calculate it, is less than what your personal tax is. It's less than what the tax is going to be that you're going to pay on your income into the future. And because you take the full lump sum, the income that you're going to receive is going to be even lower, so that reduces your tax. So that's the yes answer from a tax perspective. It is better. What is the no answer? The no answer is that if you need that 1/3 to give you an income, or any other thing, anything else that you need the capital for, you have to have the absolute discipline to then take that money and go and invest it to give you that income, give you the capital growth, give you whatever is needed. And you have to be disciplined enough to put that money away and not use it. So it doesn't help to take it and get the tax benefit and then go and spend it, and then you've got nothing left. So that's why I say that it's a yes and a no answer with, is it a good idea to take the lump sum? If you are disciplined with money, I'll say yes, go for it. If you are not disciplined with money, then I would say no, don't take it, because you are going to waste it while you actually need it for an income. So Kokkie, I hope that answers your question. Nalene says, tax, SARS, why, ha ha ha, lekker. Okay, Nalene, so basically because governments are a business. Sorry about that. Government is a business, whether they want to admit it or not. Every government in the world is a business. And why are they a business? They run the country, number one, so they have to just see South Africa as one big business, okay? And you've got a COO, which is Cyril Ramaphosa. Then you've got a board of trustees or board of directors, which is all the ministers. And they are responsible for running this business, which is called South Africa. They are responsible for building roads, hospitals, education, and you can carry on and on and on. So there is a need for tax for all of these out expenses. That is why SARS is there, because SARS is now one of this business that's called South Africa. It is one of the divisions in this business, and the work of that division SARS is purely to get in the money that is owed, that is the profit that the government is making for the sales that it's doing. So SARS is that division that runs that. And if we did not have SARS, if we did not have tax, then we would not have a government, and we will be living in a land, in a country of chaos. Now I know what people are going to say now, we're already living in a country of chaos. That's correct. I agree with that. But can you imagine when there's absolutely no rule, no law, no nothing? Then it's going to be a disaster. So yes, our country, our business South Africa is not being run as well as other businesses worldwide. We are not being, our business South Africa is not being run as well as Switzerland. It's not being run as well as Germany or Japan or China, maybe even America. But we are a business which is being run better than Cameroon and Ghana and Brazil and a number of other countries. Just like in normal businesses. If you go and you look at all the different car dealerships in South Africa, there's a couple of them that are being managed brilliantly and they're doing fantastic. And there's some of them that is barely hanging on because they're not being managed properly. And then a bunch in between. So that is the thing. So yes, our country or our business South Africa might not be run perfectly, but at least we are not in absolute chaos like other countries. And all that can happen is that our management team, which is Mr. Ramaphosa and all these presidents, will hopefully learn to work together and to start making us a better business, a better South Africa. And that was my bit of politics for the next 6 months. Thank you very much. And then we see Cocky says, yes, I want to go grow it. 100% Cocky. Now, if your husband has, whether he has or has not submitted these documents for the payments, you're always welcome to talk to us, and we can give you some advice based on what he is going to get out, what you're going to get out. We can always advise you on how to invest that money in the right way. Mario, I'm sure you've been on here from before, just a long time ago. Anyways, good evening, Mario. Hi, Corey, al 4 jaar afgetree, het 1 miljoen al gespaar. Wow! Enige raad wat om dit invest? Okay, so Mario, you have been retired for 4 years, you've saved R1 million, and then any advice as to where to invest it for an income? So Mario, there is a number of places that I can advise you to invest it in. It's all going to depend on what you want to have. Do you want a guaranteed income? Do you want to ensure that the income that you're going to get is the most tax effective and that the capital is protected? Then you need to take a guaranteed income plan with capital protection. If you want to ensure that in the event of your death, somebody else must get the income up to a certain point, then just a guaranteed income over a specific service is needed. If you want to have a flexible income whereby you can put the income up and down, then you can most probably make use of a combination of unit trust and endowments. If you want to pursue growth while you're getting an income, then once again, you can make use of a combination of that, or you can use a bit of alternative investments. So Mario, there's so many options that can be exercised. At the end of the day, it's going to depend on your personal circumstances, what your risk profile is, how long you want the income for, whether the income or the capital must be left behind for beneficiaries, and so on and so on and so on. And therefore, Mario, the only way to advise anybody with a question such as yours is to actually have a bit of a consultation, do the calculations, do the planning around it, and then make a recommendation which is exactly in line with what your needs are. Ash, do you have a CFP? No, Ash, I do not have a CFP. All my knowledge is from what I've studied to get my credits, because I've got my qualification, which I got, wow, I can't even remember. But I've got my qualifications and I've got a lot of experience. I've got many years of experience. And I actually believe that the way I understand business counts for more than a CFP. It does for me in any case. But no, Ash, I do not have a CFP, sir. M. Sekopa says, I'm getting new advice every week. Thanks. Whoa, M. Sekopa. I hope I'm not the one giving you new advice every week. I hope that my advice is consistent. But yes, if you're getting new advice, that's good. Just make sure at the end of the day that you pick the right advice for you. Eh? Every person is different. Every person's advice should differ from the next person's. Charlene, where's the best place to keep money before deciding where to invest it? Charlene, well, the best place would be in a bank account. You don't want to keep it in your mattress or in your couch or in your safe. The best place would be to put it in a bank account where it's protected and where you're still getting a bit of interest. So that's the best place to put it until you make your investment. Interesting thing about this is we're always talking about interest, and you don't want to be taxed on your interest because it's 23,800. Now, just look at this, folks. Just bear with me for a second. If you've got 1 million rand that you're going to invest in the bank, and let's say the bank gives you 7% interest, okay? That is 70,000 per year. So you don't want to leave it in there for a year. But it is effectively 5,800 rand per month, okay? So from a standpoint of 23,800 rand per year that you get as a rebate on interest before you're being taxed, you can leave your 1 million rand in the bank for 4 months And the interest that you get in those 4 months will be below the rebate figure. So you've got 4 months to plan if you've got R1 million. If you've got 4 million rand that you've invested in the bank and you get 7%, you can take 1 full month to make your decisions to move it. It's only once you get interest on the second month that you will start paying tax on it. Okay, so it's just an easy way to go and think about it, especially if you say, where do I put my money until I make a decision? And then quite frankly, if you have 4 million rand in a bank account and you are earning like 24,000 rand interest per month, for somebody like you that's got that amount of money or even more, if that money does sit in your bank account for 3 or 6 months, which means that you end up with 75,000 or 150,000 rand in interest, yes, you're going to be paying tax, but you are most probably the investor that can afford it to pay that tax and to wait it out in any case because of how big that investment is. You are not earning peanuts when you've got that amount of money. So I don't know if I've answered that question for you, Charlene. I hope so. And by the way, Charlene, I am basically finished with the stuff that I needed to calculate for you. I will most probably contact you tomorrow or Friday with all the feedback that you wanted. Okay? Just so that you know. Nalene, sometime back you mentioned it is better to take 1/3 cash because the tax will be less. Yes, Nalene, that's basically exactly what I explained to the previous lady. If you go and do the calculation on the 1/3 cash that's taken, just about every calculation, I think every calculation I've ever done, has proven that the tax that you pay on the 1/3 is less than what the tax rate is that you were paying while you were working, number one. And number two, if you're going to invest the 2/3 to get an income, then the tax that you're paying on the 1/3 cash is less than the tax you're going to pay on the 2/3 income. So from a tax perspective, absolutely, I believe every calculation like that is going to prove that it will be more tax efficient to take the 1/3 in cash, the full 1/3 in cash. What we were mentioning earlier was just the fact of discipline. It's all fine and dandy to take your 1 million or 2 million or 3 million rand in cash, pay less tax, but if you are not disciplined with that money, then you've got a problem, because then you go and spend it on stuff that you don't need, and you don't have capital left for income into the future or emergencies, etc. So if you are that type of person, be honest with yourself, that just doesn't have the discipline to leave the money investment, then it might be better not to take the full 1/3 and rather protect yourself against yourself by putting it into a forced 2/3 income plan. Okay, so, and I've seen it so many times. It's unreal. People have no financial discipline. You educate them for 10, 15, 20 years. They don't change. And then they go into retirement, suddenly they have this capital and you tell them not to take it because you've seen what's happened, and now suddenly they promise you they will not touch it because they've learned their lessons and everything is fine and they've got the discipline now. You give them the money and 6 months later it's like, where's your capital? Oh, I used it. Spend it. So yeah, Nalene, 1/3 is better from a tax perspective, but not always from a personal perspective. Mercenary Ghost, do you think South Africa is a good investment? Yes, I do so. And the reason why I say I do so is because it gives you diversification. But over and above the fact that it gives you diversification, there is some good companies to invest in South Africa. Our market is not as big as the global market. So I will not invest all my money in South Africa because it's just a question of you have to go where the investment is good. Now, in South Africa, we've got about 360 companies that's listed on the JSE. In comparison to America, where there's thousands of companies listed, it just makes sense that there will be more value available there, but not necessarily better value. So yes, South Africa is a good investment. And just to give you an idea, and this is something that somebody told me the other day that just struck home. If you've got a cell phone account or a cell phone contract, who do you have it with? if you have a bank account in South Africa, who do you have it with? If you go and buy food every day, which of the outlets, Spar, Checkers, Pick n Pay, Woolies, where do you buy your food? Now, if you trust those companies with your cell phone contract, you trust them with your banking, you trust them to buy food, surely you trust that those companies are not going to fall tomorrow and just disappear. There must therefore be value in those companies. And therefore, it makes sense that there is value in the South African market. Okay. I hope that answers it for you, and I hope it gives a different outlook on it, so to speak. So let's see who's next. Kiki, does pensioners also pay tax on their invested savings? Kiki, it depends very much on the invested savings that they have. If it is savings in the bank, yes, they do. They do pay tax on the interest that they earn on the savings in the bank. The difference is just that they get a bigger rebate. So it means that they don't get a rebate of 23,800 per year. They actually get a rebate of, and let me blow your mind because I've got it right here. So for pensioners, that means people older than 65, they actually get a rebate of 34,500 Rand per year on interest. So that's the first thing. Your pensioner will pay tax, but because they get a bigger rebate, they can earn more interest at the bank and pay less tax. If the pensioner has an endowment, exactly the same thing. The 30% CGT still happens within that endowment. If they have a unit trust, same thing. Once they withdraw the money, it's taxed in their own personal capacity. Only difference is the pensioner now gets a second and a third rebate from SARS when they do their personal tax returns, which means that they will pay less tax. So yes, everybody will be taxed in some way or another. I hope it answers it for you, Kiki. Nalene, I'm disciplined, but if I take 1/3 and it sits in the bank, then I'm paying tax on the interest. Yes, Nalene, indeed. If you're going to take it and you put it into your bank, you are going to pay tax on the interest. But this is the thing. When you are doing your planning, whoever you're doing your planning with, the financial advisor that you do your planning with, or when you're doing your planning, to plan as to how you're going to take your 1/3 and what you're going to do with your 2/3. At that same conversations that you're having, you should already be deciding on that 1/3, what's going to happen to it into the future. That money should therefore not hit your bank account and sit there for longer than a few weeks or maybe a couple of months. It shouldn't be there for that long. Because if the planning was done properly, then by the time the 1/3 pays out to you and you start receiving your income from your 2/3, you will already know what you're going to do with that 1/3, and you should have already completed the documentation for the investments that you're going to do with it. So if you are disciplined, like you say, don't let it sit in the bank. There's no need for it to sit in the bank. As a matter of fact, if the planning was done properly and the paperwork was done properly, if that money hits your bank tomorrow, the 12th of June, then by the 13th of June, you can already transfer it to the investment where it should be so that it's not in your bank and not attracting interest and therefore not penalizing you from a tax perspective. So, Nalene, get somebody that can help you out with this. If you don't find somebody, contact me. Do you know anything about Forex tax? Dante, it depends on what you mean with Forex tax, okay? Because there's a lot of things when it comes to tax, but I would assume, and I'm just going to assume for now, that you're talking about people from South Africa working internationally and earning income there and therefore having to pay tax, okay? So if you're talking about that, South Africa has a dual tax system with most countries of the world, which means that if you are earning an income in another country, you will be paying tax in that country, and you will not be taxed in South Africa. But if you're working in another country and you're not paying tax there, then you still pay the income tax in South Africa. If you're working in another country and you're paying tax there, but it's over a certain limit, then that limit that is over, you will still be paying some tax in South Africa. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Dante, but that's normally the question I get about international tax. So that's why I've given you that answer. If it's not right, ask another question or pop me a question on my WhatsApp number. Mario, hi, ek kry 8% op die miljoen wat my help. Ek is al my medical kry daarom tax uit, maar gaan kry vorentoe. Okay, so Mario says he's getting 8% on his million, which helps. And he claims from his medical, gets tax out, but it's going to be difficult for it. Yeah, so Mario, the reason why it's going to be difficult for it is because you're getting 8% return, with inflation being 6%, and most probably having to pay taxes on that 8%, the chances are pretty good that you end up only getting 6 or 6.5%. So your capital is only, and the income is only keeping up with inflation. In your situation, you would want to be invested in something that's going to give you at least a 10% return on investment so that you can outperform inflation, get your capital to grow a bit, and therefore get your income to grow a bit. You are already in retirement, so short periods of time left. But yes, you know what? I am sure that you can do better than the 8% that the bank is giving you. That is for sure. I've just answered that one for you, Dante. Mercenary goes, I have a lot of money. I suppose you mean I have a lot of money. I have a lot of money coming in from a sale that I have to happen. Will you send your info, please? Mercenary Ghost. So number one, I can't really send my stuff on TikTok. It's in my profiles. It's everywhere. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I've done this before. They haven't stopped me. So hopefully I can do it again tonight. Okay. So this is my WhatsApp number. Okay, Mercenary. This is my WhatsApp number. Write it down. 060-541-4685. I'll repeat. 060-541-4685. The email is talktous@heptagonc.com. talktous@heptagonc.com. So you can contact me on the WhatsApp or the email, and then we can take the conversation further, okay? Otherwise, like I say, in my TikTok profile is my contact details as well. Teresa, if you reach the RA 350 per annum limit, is it better to invest additional contributions elsewhere? Teresa, so if you hit that 350,000 Rand per annum limit, okay, when you get into retirement, the 550,000 tax-free that you get, let's say you've hit it with 50,000 Rand more, you put in 400,000. That 50,000 rolls over to retirement. And now instead of getting 550,000 tax-free, you will get 400,000 Rand tax-free because the receiver will compensate you for the premiums that you could not deduct. So that's the good thing. Any contributions more is rolling over and can be utilized in retirement. If you take your 1/3 withdrawal, and let's say it's just 550,000 Rand that you can take, but you still have that 50,000 that you contributed, but you can't take it because your 1/3 is not big enough, then the income that you will generate, the tax on the start of the income will be nothing or less because they once again compensate you for that 50,000. So that's the first thing to understand about the extra contributions. My personal opinion is, however, that if you are able to contribute 350,000 Rand per year to a retirement annuity, you're earning a substantial income. And then it might be better to actually start looking at the difference in funds and to put it into an endowment. Because the endowment tax rate 30%, you most probably 36 or 46% tax rate. So I would rather put the money in there. And the reason why I'm saying this is that when you now get to retirement, you get your 1/3, irrespective of what the taxes is and whatever is on that. You start getting your income. Let's say you earn an income of 20,000 Rand a month and you pay tax based on a 240,000 tax rate. If you take the difference, the other 50,000 that would have gotten into the RA and that's into an endowment now, and you've built up a capital lump sum here, it's already been taxed and sorted out in there, and now you draw a 20,000 Rand income on that side as well, that's tax-free income. So effectively, you're drawing 20,000 from your RA, which you pay tax on, 20,000 Rand from your endowment that you're getting income tax-free. You're getting a 40,000 Rand per month income, and you are effectively only paying 50% tax. So that is my view upon it, Teresa, and that's what I would rather recommend than paying more into a retirement annuity. At the end of the day, use the tax rules and the tax laws to your best benefit. That's what it's all about. Okay, Teresa, hope that helped. Okay, Corne, what do you think of people who at 40 take all their pension and start over in life? Webster, I think they're nuts. Honestly, people the age of 40 that takes their pension and start over, I think is nuts. Because so few people know how to run a business. Now, this is something that I asked yesterday, and I'm not very popular with asking this, but if you've been working for a company up until the age of 40, okay, and you've never started your own business or any insurance, makes you think that you're going to be this brilliant business person going into the future? What makes you think that if you take all your pension fund money and you go and buy a business, invest it into a business, you're suddenly going to be this phenomenal businessman that's going to grow your own pension magically? If we look at the statistics of how many businesses survive, out of every 10 businesses that are started, only 2 survive. 8 goes. Out of the 2 that survives, only 1 becomes successful. The other one, basically, the person is just working in his business. That's all. So, just from that point of view, taking everything, no. If you want to do a change in life at the age of 40, by all means, put your money in. Most millionaires come from nothing and they make it big. Any case, so that's my opinion, Webster. I hope I haven't gone off target, yeah? Oh, Dante says, sorry, I meant to say that you know anything about Forex trading and... Oh! Yes, Dante, I do know a little bit about Forex trading and crypto trading. We don't do it. I won't get involved with it. I don't like ulcers. I don't like heart attacks. I don't like all that stress. But I understand how it works. I understand the basics enough to understand why I don't want to get into that. And although we do make use of crypto arbitrage, and some of the portfolios that we use has some Forex in it, I understand it enough to help myself, but it is not something that we would advocate. Not in my company in any case. Cloud9 photography, very difficult question to answer. Because this 300,000 Rand that you're talking about now, is it the only 300,000 Rand that you have? Or is this 300,000 Rand above the 3 million that you've already saved? If you say you want to invest it for the future, are we talking about 5 years until you're 55? Or 15, 20 years until you're 65, 70 or even older? Do you have to make sure that this money is protected in the case that you pass away for somebody else? Or does it need to be just always available? So there's an absolute bunch of questions that has to be asked before I can tell you what will be the best for your 300K. Because the person that is in a situation where they have to be conservative has to be investing it into a stable or balanced fund. The person that can afford to be more aggressive can make use of a equity fund or global equity fund. The person that this is absolutely chump change for and they don't even care whether they lose it or not, they can really go aggressive and they can go and play with arbitrage and with alternative funds. So it really just depends on your personal circumstances. Hope I've given you a bit of guidelines here, Cloud9. Let's see. Jay says, my annuity matures in 6 months. Okay, Jay, if you need help with it, I gave my contact details earlier and it's in my profile TikTok. You're welcome to contact me, okay? Live will, oh, wait, hang on a second, folks. I've got that little puzzle piece that's popped in again. Is it good to have trust fund while you are broke? I want a trust fund. Mazizi? Okay. So here's the thing. You're saying, is it good to have a trust fund while you're broke? You want a trust fund. A trust fund normally means that somebody has created the trust and they have made investments in that trust. That's the trust fund, which they then leave for beneficiaries. So they choose people that they say, you're going to be my beneficiary and you can benefit from this trust fund into the future. So if you are broke, well, I suppose then you can't start a trust fund. If you want a trust fund, I suppose you can create one for yourself, but it's not something. You can create a trust fund for yourself, but it's not something. Hold on. Oh my goodness, what's happening here? Folks, I might be cut off now. I'm sorry about that. So it might be, if you want a trust fund, you're going to have to either create one for yourself, or you're going to have to go without it, so to speak. Dani says, hi Corné, as ek is adviseer myself en wil weet hoe prospect jy. Dani, John, kontak my op my WhatsApp nommer en dan gaan ek jou vertel, want my prospecting oor die jare het substantieel verander. Oh, wait, hang on. Jay says, does it have tax implications? Jay? Oh, yeah, Jay, you said your retirement annuity is maturing in 6 months' time. Does it have tax implications? It could. Depends on how big it is. Hey, wait, maybe we can sort this thing out now. It might, Jay, it all depends on how big your retirement annuity is. If your retirement annuity is big enough, okay? There we go. Things are all good again. If your retirement annuity is big enough that there's tax implications to the 1/3, then yes, it will. There's a possibility for it. And of course, on the income, there's a possibility. Donnie, like I said, please, mate, contact me on my WhatsApp number and let's have a long chat about it. I'll tell you about my prospecting. Does it have tax implications? That's the one I just answered. Is it good to have trust fund while you're broke? We've gone through that one. Nalene, if the money is placed in endowment, it must stay there for 5 years. What if I die before that? Oh, Nalene, that's not a problem. Well, you passed away, so it's a problem for you. But your beneficiaries will inherit it. Whatever the capital amount is plus all growth, your beneficiaries will inherit it. And remember, you can draw money in the first 5 years from your endowment. It's just that you're limited with 2 withdrawals in this first 5 years and how much can be withdrawn. And that's all based on legislation. But after the 5th year, you've got full access to it as often as you want, as much as you want. The gatekeeper says goes to your beneficiary. That's correct. That's what you just said. Dani sê, dankie vir geen antwoord. Dani, dat ek net sien. Dani, is jy net die ou wat my gevra het omtrent die prospecting? Dani, dis baie eenvoudig om maat. Ek wil jou actually 'n paar tips gee. Dis ek ook vir jou sê kontak my en dan vertel ek jou. Maar kom ek gee dan vir jou die maklike antwoord. Toe ek begin het, 28, 30 jaar terug, het ek cold calling gedoen. Ek het dit gedoen vir 6 maande en van daar af het ek alles gedoen op referrals. Tot in die laaste paar jaar. En toe het ek begin met ander maniere van prospecting. So, daar is die antwoord. My social media doen baie vir my in terme van prospecting. Moet eerlik wees met jou. Maar ja, kontak my en ek gaan vir jou 'n bietjie meer vertel en jy sal dit moeite werd vind. No, it's okay. Time is up anyway. It is very close to being up. Mario, first time I see the show. What are your slots or when do you go live? Mario, at this stage, I only go live on Wednesday evenings from 6 to 7. Into the future, we might start a live podcast. We've spoken about it. It's all time dependable on time and how many people is interested and so on. So far, so good. These live events, there's normally 50 to 70 people that tunes in and ask questions and so on. So yes, the possibility is very good that we will start doing a live podcast somewhere in the near future. But for now, 6 to 7 on a Wednesday night. Adam, is 6 miljoen genoeg om op pensioen te gaan? Adam, for some people it will be, for other people it won't be. It all depends on what you are willing to live with. So just to give you an idea, Adam, safe income on 6 million is about 5%, which equals 300,000, which equals 25,000 Rand per month before tax. So let's say it's going to be 22,000 after tax. Question is that going to be enough for you, Adam? Me personally, I won't be happy with that. So for me, it won't be. But then there's people that I know is going to be happy with 10,000 Rand a month. And for this, it will be more than enough. So it depends on what you need, whether it's going to be enough or not. Rushay, with the RI when you are 30, can you get the money 5 years after? No, Rushay. Retirement annuities, you have to leave the money there until the age of 55 at the earliest. It's one of the beauties of retirement annuities. I know people don't like it, but it forces you to leave your money there and to save for retirement. So, no, you can't touch it at the age of 30. You must leave it until the age of 55. And folks, that seems to be it with my little bit of IT troubles that I just had. We have come to 3 minutes past 7 on a Wednesday evening. I enjoyed chatting to you all. I enjoyed answering your questions again. You must go out and have a spectacular evening and a spectacular week. We'll chat again next week. All the best. Bye-bye.